Hey there, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here today because we're diving into something big, like big, big. It's one of those things that affects us all, whether we realize it or not. And if we don't get it right, it can totally derail our lives, our relationships, our sense of worth. But if we do get it right, game changer. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had a moment where you're lying awake at night, replaying something you said or did, and this sinking feeling washes over you? That little voice in your head starts whispering, "What's wrong with you? Why did you even say that?" "Yeah, me too." Now, I want you to hold on to that feeling for a second, not because I'm mean, but because we're going to unpack it together. Here's the question. Was that shame talking or was it guilt? And before you answer, I'll tell you right now, knowing the difference can change your life. So here's the thing. Shame and guilt, they're like cousins who look a little alike, but one of them is a total jerk, and the other one, while not always fun, can actually help you grow. But most of us lump them together in this messy emotional soup and don't realize they're two completely different things. And I want us to untangle that today, because when we don't know the difference, shame sneaks in, sets up shop, and takes over. And let me tell you, shame is a terrible roommate. It's like the kind of roommate who eats all your snacks, leaves dirty dishes everywhere, and whispers insults in your ear while you're trying to sleep. Let's start with guilt, because guilt gets a bad rap, but it's actually not the villain of the story. Guilt is that feeling you get when you've done something that goes against your values. It's behavior focused. It says, I did something bad, not fun, but also not destructive. Guilt is like a flashing warning light on your dashboard. It's saying, hey, this doesn't align with who you want to be. Let's fix it. And when we listen to guilt, we can make amends, learn, grow, and move forward. Guilt, when it's healthy, is productive. Now, shame, whole different story. Shame doesn't say, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. See the difference? Guilt is about what you did. Shame is about who you are. And that's why shame is so toxic. When shame shows up, it doesn't stop at your behavior. It takes a wrecking ball to your identity. It says, you're not enough. You're unworthy. You're broken. And when we believe those lies, we spiral. We hide. We disconnect from the people and the things that matter most. I'll give you an example. Let's say you forgot your best friend's birthday. Guilt might sound like, oh, I can't believe I forgot. That's not like me. I'm going to call them, apologize, and make it right. Shame, on the other hand, sounds like, God, you're such a terrible friend. Why would anyone even want to be friends with you? Do you feel the difference? One invites repair, the other breeds disconnection. And here's the kicker. Shame thrives in secrecy. It loves to hide in the dark corners of our minds where no one can see it. It tells us, don't talk about this. If people knew this about you, they'd never look at you the same. But here's what I've learned. The antidote to shame is connection. When we shine a light on it, when we say it out loud to someone we trust, shame loses its power. Every single time. Let's dig a little deeper here, because this is where it gets really interesting. Shame isn't just an emotional reaction. It's a deeply biological one. Our brains are wired for survival, and shame taps into that wiring in a big way. When we experience shame, our fight, flight, freeze response kicks in. It's like our brains are screaming, danger, you're about to. Now, of course, that's not true in modern life, but our brains haven't caught up yet. Shame convinces us that we're at risk of losing our place in the tribe. And that fear can feel overwhelming. But here's the good news. Just like shame is biological, so is connection. Our brains are also wired for belonging. When we share our shame with someone who responds with empathy, it's like hitting the reset button. That sense of connection tells our nervous system, you're safe, you're not alone, you're still part of the tribe. And that's incredible. So let's talk about what happens when we don't address shame. When we let it fester, it can show up in all kinds of destructive ways. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism. We think, if I can just be perfect, no one will see how flawed I really am. Other times it looks like numbing. We turn to food, alcohol, work, or social media to distract ourselves from the pain of shame. And sometimes it looks like anger. We lash out at others because it feels easier than facing our own feelings of inadequacy. And here's the tricky part. Shame isn't always loud and obvious. Sometimes it's sneaky. It shows up as that little voice in the back of your mind that says, "Who do you think you are?" It's the hesitation you feel when you want to speak up in a meeting but worry you'll sound stupid. It's the urge to downplay your accomplishments because you don't want to seem arrogant. Shame can be subtle, but its impact is huge. Now, let's circle back to guilt for a moment, because I don't want to give you the impression that guilt is always easy to deal with. It's not. Feeling guilty can be uncomfortable, even painful. But guilt has a purpose. It's there to guide us back to our values. And when we listen to it, we have the opportunity to grow. We can say, you know what? That's not the kind of person I want to be. I'm going to do better next time. Guilt invites us to take responsibility without losing sight of our worth. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also empowering. So how do we cultivate a healthy relationship with guilt while keeping shame in check? It starts with self-awareness. We need to get curious about our emotions instead of judging them. When you feel that sinking feeling in your stomach, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Is this guilt or is this shame? And then dig a little deeper. What triggered this feeling? What story am I telling myself about this situation? Once you've identified what you're feeling, the next step is to challenge the story. If it's guilt, ask yourself, what can I do to make this right? If it's shame, ask yourself, is this true? Am I really unworthy, or is this just shame talking? And remember, shame is a liar. It's really good at sounding convincing, but it's not telling the truth. Another important step is to practice vulnerability. I know, vulnerability is scary, but it's also the antidote to shame. When we share our shame with someone we trust, it loses its power. It's like flipping on a light switch in a dark room. Suddenly, the shadows aren't so scary anymore. And here's the thing. Vulnerability is contagious. When you're brave enough to share your story, you give others permission to do the same. And that creates a ripple effect of connection and healing. Finally, let's talk about self-compassion. Because if we're going to deal with guilt and shame in a healthy way, we need to learn how to be kind to ourselves. Self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about recognizing that you're human, that you're going to make mistakes, and that those mistakes don't define you. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend. And let me tell you, that's a skill worth practicing. So the next time you catch yourself in a shame spiral, I want you to pause. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself that you are not your mistakes. You are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. And if you're feeling guilty about something, take that as an opportunity to grow. Apologize if you need to. Make amends if you can. And then let it go. You don't have to carry that weight forever. I'll leave you with this. Shame and guilt are part of the human experience. They're not going anywhere. But we don't have to let them run the show. We can learn to recognize them, to name them, and to choose how we respond. And when we do, we reclaim our power. We create with our values, and we create space for growth, connection, and joy. Thank you so much for being here, for leaning into this conversation with me. I know it's not always easy, but it's so worth it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Good luck out there. You've got this.